Back to the 91 Audi Quattro. Today I want to finish up all the electrical stuff. Rear fog light and cruise control are the two remaining things that don't work on this vehicle. And the owner wants everything to be stock, all the features to work, so we're going to tackle those two items. So first, let's look up a wiring diagram for the rear fog light. It has one rear fog light, Euro style. And here's the wiring diagram. You just have a rear fog light switch. It's illuminated. So these two, that's a little bulb for the backlight. And then here's the switch. And when you press that, it connects power, feeds the rear fog light, and it's grounded. So fuse S1 15 amp, that should have power, I assume, when the headlights are on. Now if you go to track 131, let's see where that comes from and see if this fuse has power, if we have power at the switch, and if the wiring is good through the fog light, if the bulb is good. So we have to check all the components in the system. Alright, so gray-green wire right here, and then the gray and white goes to the fog light bulb. This is a switch, so pretty simple circuit. I have power and ground here coming from the battery and a test light. So this is going to be a test light diagnosis. So first, let's plug in our little test light to ground, and if it finds a positive, test light's going to light up. So I'll stick my pin in here, the gray and green wire, and we turn our headlights on. Now the ignition switch has to be on for the headlights to be on. And look, we have no power here. Okay, well that's definitely a problem. But before we go chasing for missing power, let's make sure everything else works. Does the switch work? Does this wire through the bulb have continuity? So for that, I have a higher amp test light, and we're going to hook this up to battery positive. Now that's 5 amps right there. And if I connect this lead now, going to that rear fog light, that bulb in the back, now you see those are the tail lights. That's a 2-filament bulb. That bulb should light up super bright if we provide enough power to this gray and white wire. So let's take our needle probe and put it in this lead right here and provide power to the gray and white wire. Here, I'll show you what happens to the light back there. Yes, nice and bright. So we just verified that from the switch all the way through the fog light to ground. The bulb is good, this leg is good, but we're missing a power on this gray and green wire. What about the switch itself? Well, let's provide power to the input of the switch, to the gray and green wire, push the switch, and see if our light bulb turns on. Well, I hooked up my big test light to ground to the power wire, and look, now we do have power. So we might have had a bad contact somewhere. So now the switch should send power to that fog light. Okay, so this car just basically has bad contact. Yes, okay. Now that works, but look, even the illumination works on this switch. So just needs a little WD-40 inside the switch. So everything seems to be good. See, now it stopped working. Let's double check that the power is still there. Yes, power is still there. Okay. Alright, got the switch apart. And that's the beautiful thing about old switches, they're usually serviceable. So you see some of the contacts are just dry and crusty and whatever. So let's blow this out, spray it with deoxit. We just plug it in, see, make sure it works. Should be good to go. Alright, switch is plugged in. On, off, on, off, on, off. Okay, much better, more consistent. The illumination bulb is not working. I don't know if we can replace that little bulb. I don't know if it's burnt out. We can just put a test light across the illumination circuit, make sure that's good when the headlights are on. That little bulb should light up too. And we're almost done. Alright, so I just connected a test light across the illumination circuit. If I mess with the dimmer, that indeed works. So this little bulb must be burnt out. And so is the one in this switch. So where do we get a spare bulb? Alright, so I got the illumination bulb out of here. And I do stock these. It's an E74. The old one is definitely burnt out. So let's pop a new mini bulb in here. Plug that sucker in. Yes! We have illumination. Reassemble the switch. And I think all the other ones work. So these two, the seat heaters, are backlit when the key is on. And then you turn the parking lights on. Let's turn up the brightness here. Here we go. Yeah, the defog is backlit. Now the fog lights is backlit. You push it. Oh, come on. Now the fog light itself is not working, but and then the ABS is not illuminated, and I don't know what it's supposed to do. It's like a turn off, you know, when you want to drift, you push that button. Nothing in the dash changes. Not sure if the owner cares about that, but we solved the fog light problem. Okay, so we lost our fog light power feed, so headlights on. This doesn't do anything anymore. Fog light doesn't light up, and we have no power to that wire. That's what we saw originally, but then it came back, and now it's gone again. So let's go to that fuse. Fuse 1, 15 amp in the fuse box, because we know this fuse box has seen better days, and see if there's something in here. Green crusties. Fuse 1 is this one. Oh, look, right there. Bad contact in the fuse box. So multiple problems. Now I did replace this fuse already because, well, actually no. This one's looks a little crusty. Let's clean it up. Clean out those terminals. See that? It's just not a good contact there. Let's fix that too. Alright, so I cleaned the fuse terminal, the blades on the wire wheel, sprayed that thing with WD-40, and now when we wiggle it, nice and bright, that stays on, and our switch should be illuminated consistently. That's amazing. Well, since we're here, let's take care of all these switches. So I pulled the ABS button off, and the illumination side, the bulb is burnt out. I pulled that out, and it didn't even have a bulb on the bottom side. So let's replace both these bulbs. It's really nice that they are replaceable. Make sure we're going in the right way. There we go, there's one. So that should be illumination, which does not work. Let's see, key on. Hey! So I guess that should always be on. And then the second one should come on when you press the button when your ABS is disabled. So I don't know exactly how that's supposed to work. But at least it lights up on the illumination side. Let's see. Let me put that in. Let's just start the vehicle. So let's see, lights on. That works. That works. The illumination here is dead. And not exactly sure what's going on there. Well, I checked the bulb for that ABS light and check it out. Anti-lock off. So we're back in business on that. Just a bad bulb or a bad contact in there. Let's start it up and see if the ABS button actually works. So it's supposed to turn off normally, but when you push the switch, it doesn't do anything. What about when you push the diff lock button here? Okay, so it turns off when you push the differential lock. That's cool. And it turns back on. But when you push this button, it's supposed to turn off, but nothing happens. Alright, so the ABS button came back to life. It was just a bit sticky, I guess. The contact's in there. So when you push it, the ABS light off comes on, and then you push it again. And then you push the diff lock. ABS is disabled. You push the diff lock again. ABS is enabled. So, looks like ABS system works perfectly as designed. On to the cruise control. Alright, so for the cruise control, the easiest thing to get to is the cruise control switch. So here it is. You got on, off, resume, and set. These wires come up here to this 6-pin connector. So we can do some checks at the 6-pin connector, see if the switch works, and if we need to go further towards the cruise control module or control unit. So here's the switch. This wire, the black and blue, is an ignition power feed. Let's check that first, and then we can check the outputs, the set, resume. This one is basically on or off. So if it's off, you will not get power on this blue and red wire going to the vacuum control motor or the cruise control module. Red and black comes from the brake pedal switch. I looked that up on track 160. And then it goes through vacuum vent valve brake switch and vacuum vent valve clutch switch. That's like the cancel. And also we have the speedometer signal here coming in on pin 5 to the cruise control unit. This is buried somewhere behind the dash. I cannot find it, but let's start with the cruise control switch. Alright, so with the key on, first let's check the power feed. Black and blue wire right here with the ignition key on. And yes, we have a nice bright test light. So power feed is fine. What's next? Let's check the brake pedal input. That is the red and black wire, which is the corner pin here. So I press the brake. Again, we'll get the test light in the picture. Right in here. Okay, brake pedal input is good. So that's 2 out of 6 are fine. When we hit the switch to on, we should get power on the black and yellow. Oh, I'm sorry, the black and yellow has to be on when the switch is on and I press the brake pedal. So I press the brake pedal, see that that's on. If I turn the switch off, light goes out. So in on or resume, that light should stay on with the brake pedal pushed. Alright, so that's 3 pins. Fourth one is the power feed to the vacuum control motor, blue and red wire. Let's see, blue and red. That's this one. So that should be on with the ignition key on and the switch on. So turn the switch off, it's fine. On, resume. So power is maintained on that wire. So that's 4 pins already. Now we need to test the resume and set circuits from the switch. So the set is the red and yellow right here. So when I press set, the button should illuminate, and it does not. So that could definitely be a cause for a problem. Let's try the resume. That's the blue wire right next to it. Resume. Also, no test light. We know we have a good power. So on the red and yellow, when I push the set button, that should illuminate. Okay. So we have a problem with set and resume. 2 out of 4 wires are not doing what they should. So we have to fix that before checking anything else on the cruise control. Alright, got the little sub harness unwrapped, and here's the carnage. We got 3 broken wires out of 6, and the reason is they were secured here, so it was a very tight bend right in here and caused them to flex and break. So the fix is, we'll solder these back together and then wrap these up and just leave them out of these clips so they have a little more wiggle room, and that should prevent a tight bend and further breakage. I think that's the best solution here. Nope, still no cruise control, so I was kind of afraid of that. So I had broken wires at the stock, fixed that. Now maybe the vacuum pump seized up, like all the other electric motors in this car. So we'll have to diagnose that. Maybe get to the pump. It lives kind of by the fender over there. But yeah, multiple issues, as expected. Alright, step 2, cruise control. Extracted the cruise control. Vacuum pump lives right here in the fender behind the coolant tank. So here's the connector. It's 3 wires, and we just have a vacuum line. Now this vacuum line should go to this actuator, which pulls on this rod, which controls the throttle. So if I just suck on this vacuum, so that is definitely connected. Does this vacuum pump work, or do we have the right controls? So with the key on, this blue and red wire should be power to this vacuum pump unit. So test light, battery ground, and that pin right there. Yes, we have a test light, so we at least have power coming in to here. Now I want to take this thing to the bench and ground out the blue and white wire and the green and blue wire to see if the vent works and if the vacuum pump motor works. Alright, so with our 12-volt supply, I'm going to feed power to here, and then whenever we ground out the top pin, the motor should spin. it does. And then whenever we ground out the left pin, okay, there's the vent, it clicks. So when I just energize the motor, I'm going to feel for vacuum at this port. I don't feel the vacuum. Now if we energize the vent and energize the pump, there, now it's sucking vacuum. Vent, no vent. Okay, so I'm satisfied with that. This unit seems to be working fine. Now, we have to worry about the controls coming from the cruise control module. We can rig this up and just, with a voltmeter or a scope, check the two control wires, see when they're being, if they're being activated. Last piece of the puzzle is that cruise control module. Alright, so I got the two control wires tight together. When I ground this, the vent should close and the pump should operate, and we should see that actuator do its thing. So here we go. Okay, so that works, but for some reason it's not pulling on the rod. What gives? Why is the rod disconnected from the actuator? Oh man, did that snap off? Crap! It didn't even pull on the throttle. You can see it's completely disconnected. So here's the vacuum actuator. Here's the rod that goes to the throttle. Obviously, something was here, some kind of rubber piece that disintegrated. So my random stash of rubber parts, I think we can try this bushing. So that'll squeeze in there, and then this metal piece, you can put the rod through here and it'll actually pull on that. I think that should work. I don't see why it wouldn't. So put that through here. The bushing's probably like, obviously it's not available, but if it was, it'd probably be like $100 from the dealer. Let's see if we make this work. It's a little tight, but let's reinstall this and take this car for another test drive. Alright, so with the new bushing, let's try that experiment again, see if the throttle activates. Let me turn the key on. Cruise control switch on. And here we go. Okay, well, it's kind of slow. I don't think the pump's supposed to run all the time. There could be a vacuum leak somewhere. Now we can easily check. You know, this vacuum line also goes to those valves, the brake and clutch kind of vent valves. those could be leaking. So I think we need to put a smoke machine on this thing now and check for vacuum leaks. Oh, here we go. Smoke coming out from under the dash. Where is this thing leaking? Oh. So it looks like the clutch, see this, the vent valve? It's supposed to be completely shut off. Let's see the brake. So that one is leaking. There might be a little piece of crap stuck in there. Let me blow that out, make sure it's clean. Alright, so I plugged off the line for the clutch switch. Let's just see if the pump is more efficient and if it can pull the throttle in faster. Done. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's see, what if we energize it, then unplug the vent, or unplug the pump, and it should stay there if there are no vacuum leaks. So I like that. And if we unplug the vent, perfect, it's holding. And if it wants to increase the speed a little bit, it'll pump it up. Okay. Excellent. So we just have to figure out if that little vent switch is defective or what. Maybe take it out, see if there's an O-ring that's bad. But otherwise, the cruise control system is okay. But we have not checked the module yet. So all I did was turn that vent valve, screwed it in 2 turns so the clutch pedal would press harder on it when it's released. And I think that did the trick. So let's pump up the vacuum pump again. And the vent valve is still energized, so that should stay there until we push one of the pedals. So we're just going to touch the clutch pedal, see what happens to the throttle there. You guys see that? And boom, released. So let's put it back together, test drive it, see if the cruise control now works. Alright, here we go. We're going about 35 miles per hour. Cruise control on. I'm going to hold the set button. It's accelerating all on its own with turbo. And now we should keep that speed there. Fantastic. If I push the clutch or the brake, let's see, now I'm going to put it in 5th and hit resume. Nice, perfect. Fixed. Cruise control is fixed. Broken wires, missing bushing, and a leaky vent valve at the clutch pedal. This car never makes it easy, but still basically no parts required. The only part was a little rubber bushing that I just had laying around. So I think the owner will be pleased about that. That's it for electrical accessories. We just have to finish up front wheel bearings, parking brake, and clean the fuel pump one more time. I think this car just might be ready to return to the customer. I can't believe it. I guess we weren't done with all the electrical stuff. I noticed that the trunk light only works in the on position. This is off, and then forward, it's supposed to be on when the trunk is open. Well, did some research. Here is the little button that is supposed to ground out the wire coming from the dome light and turn your trunk on. See that little button there? It gets depressed by this little knob right here. So we don't have any voltage coming in on this brown and black wire from the dome light. Where are the wires hidden? Audi does they're very tricky. You don't see any, you think these are just hinges. Where is the pass-through? I just want to look where the flex is. Maybe there's a broken wire at the flex. So the wires are routed in here. They're so tricky. Behind this little weather stripping. And then the hinges are actually metal, and these things are the wire pass-throughs. There's one on each side, and you can see I tilted this cover down, the whole bunch of acorns and stuff fell out. So there were mice living in the ceiling of this car. Pretty insane. You can see the wires running through right there. There's our dome light. So somewhere between here and here, there's a broken wire. Well, if you look close, this is our brown and black wire, which I have back probed, and it's chewed off of the main harness right there. Well, that's nice. So can we prove that that switch works and all the wiring is good through the trunk? Well, yes, we can if we just grab a power from the light bulb here, and it's connected to that wire, and if I push or pull on this button, the test light should go on and off. So the wiring from here is good to the switch, and then for the actual dome light, if you put the test light on the brown, you can prove that the switch is good, that only in this position does the test light light up when you're trying to ground the bulb, on the trunk setting. So we just have to fix that. That's going to be a real pain to get to. I don't want to take this trim off too far because everything's brittle and old, but if I can maybe extract the chewed off end there, we can solder this back together, that would be a win. So anyone that suggests to me to use a butt connector in this location, you can unsubscribe right now. That's not going to happen. Solder and shrink wrap is the way to go all the time. I don't want to hear about the aviation grade crimping tool that will not even come close to fitting in here. I can barely get my soldering iron in here, to tell you the truth. Let's wait for this thing to heat up. Alright, let's see. We'll pass the tug test. Beautiful. And our dome light is now on. And if I pull the switch, hooray, we're basically done. Let's toast on the shrink wrap and put all this stuff back together. One more thing fixed on the Audi.